girl grows up and now she's a teenager and she realizes, oh my God, my mom was right about this. Now the second time you hear the hook, that same hook means something a little bit different because she's like grown up in her life. Then the bridge, maybe she goes on in her life. She has a little girl. She imparts that wisdom onto her. And then if you really want to get me to cry, like bring back that same first line of the song and end the song with it. So that was the first thing that made me think it's got to be country music. That was the first type that I really fell in love with. But then lyricism, I was the most intensely impacted by emo music, right? Dashboard Confessional, Chris Carrabba, Fall Out Boy, Pete Wentz's lyrics, how they take a common phrase and then they just twist the knife of it, right? Like, I'm just a notch in your bedpost, but you're just a line in a song. Drop a heart, break a name, right? Like, it's drop a name, break a heart. But they switched it. And I'd like, those are the kind of lyrics where I would read the lyrics to those songs or the specificity of Hands Down by Dashboard Confessional, where I'd be reading those lyrics and I'd just finish reading a line and just go, oh my God. I got a publishing deal when I was 14. I was signed by a guy named Arthur Buenahora at Sony, and he just believed that I had a perspective that mattered. And I actually asked him if he could please hold my songs from being pitched to other artists. I was like, just give me some time to try to get a record deal. I'm going to try so hard. I could almost compare it to the Brill Building. They have these offices on Music Row, or at least they had a lot of them then, that were like these small houses, these like cottages and bungalows. Now we have really tall buildings. Basically, you'd go there and there'd be 3 songwriters writing in this room, 3 songwriters in this room, 4 in this room, 2 in this room. Wow. And I would just go to school. Then my mom would drive me downtown 30 minutes and I would go and I'd have a songwriting session with someone that I'd never met before, but I really didn't want to come in unprepared. So I'd walk in with 4 to 5 nearly finished things, 2 half finished things, 10 hooks, because I just never wanted people to be like, yeah, there's this like little kid that thinks she can swan her way into Music Row and just like write songs with these hit songwriters. But I think one of my favorite things about the Nashville music scene, country music and the storytelling where it was when I arrived there, there was almost this tradition of sort of breaking the fourth wall, making the song then a part of the song, or the writing of the song becomes a part of the song. And I did that in a song called Tim McGraw, where, I'm singing about this kind of love lost and hoping that person thinks of me. And then in the bridge, it's revealed that I wrote this song and I hope he hears it. The song, Our Song, which I still love so much. It's all about this romance and this relationship. And then in the end, it says, I grabbed a pen and an old napkin and I wrote down our song. So I loved doing that. I still kind of love doing that. The kind of just like, and it was me. Like, brother. My favorite end plot twist, I think, that I've done in songwriting is the ending of The Last Great American Dynasty. That's my favorite one. It is just so much fun to tell this story about this real woman who lived in history and she defied the social norms and she drove people crazy and she had a marvelous time ruining everything. And you talk about the house she lived in on the coast. And basically then in the end, you're like, she moved away from Holiday House. It sat quietly on that beach, free of women with madness, their men and bad habits, and then it was bought by me. And you're like, every time I get to that part when I would sing it on tour, I just like have to kind of like I wanted my grin to go from here to here, but that looks crazy. So it's like I had to like taper down my own excitement that hook happened. I learned you can't ever really tell if other people are going to like it, but oftentimes when I love it to a certain degree, that kind of tends to match up with people. And it could be that it doesn't match up with the way people feel till six years later. I loved the Reputation album. I was like, you guys say what you want. I know what I did. I love it. Like, Ghost God, sorry. Like, you can come around if you want. It's okay if you don't. And then, 6 or 7 years later, people are like, oh my God, like, ready for it. Like, people slept on that song. Are you ready for it? When we were making that song, I just remember like I wanted to like headbang myself through a wall. I felt that when we wrote Ready for It. I felt that way during writing Getaway Car. I felt that way. I think the first way, I think the first time I felt like I don't care if people hate this because I love it so much was when I wrote the song Love Story. When I was 17, sitting in my bedroom, mad at my parents because they wouldn't let me go on a date with a guy who was too old, so I shouldn't have been on a date with him anyway. And this is why you need to discipline your kids, because they might write songs that go number one. Yes, to be alone. When I wrote Speak Now, I was 18 and 19, and I was coming from this big, massive moment that I had with an album called Fearless, and it had won Album of the Year at the Grammys, and it was this big, it was the first time there was like this big debate over whether I deserved to be there. There are always going to be like little debates, do you know? But this was like headline news. So I was like, these discussions can lead to a really bad place if I don't do something to counteract them and to prove that no, it wasn't my co-writers that did all this work. And yes, I am the author of this entire body of work that I was very proud of. I'd written so many songs alone, and I love collaboration. I love co-writers, but it's not something that I needed. It's when I started to trust myself as an editor, because a lot of what I'll do in a session, even now, and one of the reasons why Liz Rose and Jack Antonoff became like people that I loved to write with for albums and albums, is because I'll have this stream of consciousness pouring out, and Liz would sit there with a notepad. But when you take that away, I just started, recording everything, right? Recording everything on a voice memo, because there will be times when I'm like kind of in a zone and I'm writing so fast that there's no chance I'm going to remember what that melody was that I did, 2 minutes ago that I thought was cool for the verse. That was a really important album for me in terms of becoming a writer that knew I could trust my own intuition. I have little phonetic things. I love alliterations. I love, two words that start with the same letter. Love that. I don't like to have a word end with the same letter that the next word starts with. For example, in the song Our Song, it was supposed to be when you're on the phone and you talk real low. But I was like, I don't like the real low. So it's turned into when you talk real slow. Certain words just like fly for me. And I think one of the reasons I like to take either age old cautionary sort of phrases or things that you've heard in books, films, kind of these classic lines, and then repurposing them, inverting them, or like redefining them in some way, is because I sort of love the combination of modern vernacular and sort of old world or classic timeless speak. So in the song The Fate of Ophelia, there's a lot of sort of modern terminology and speak and kind of common phrases from the way that we talk now. But there's also, like in the bridge, there's a line from Hamlet that I repurposed. Locked inside my memory, and only you possess the key. I really gravitate towards juxtaposition and polarity in a line, right? So, hey, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once? Our coming of age has come and gone. You take one word that's at the beginning of the phrase and then you take its opposite, because ultimately, like, we are all filled with polarity, hypocrisy, these kind of battling features and factors that make up our jagged personalities. I have my phone and I have this file where I'll just be like, I know I like that, or I know I like that word, or I know I like that question. And then when I'll go into a session, I don't have social media on my phone. Like, it looks like I'm just endlessly scrolling, but I'm scrolling through the words in my file. If we're in the middle of writing a song, I'm searching for a perfect line that I thought of 4 years ago at 3 a.m. I think the importance for me of a bridge, it just feels like we're painting a picture, we're setting a scene, We have this opportunity as a songwriter to tell an entire story, an entire movie, or a very detailed description of one scene in a movie, or a very nuanced dynamic between people, or a complicated emotion. And we have only so long to do this. I've written some really long songs in my life, but for the most part, they're between 3.5 and 4 minutes. You can start like painting the picture in the verse. You can get to the heart of it, the chorus, but then the bridge can be where you zoom back, you walk 20 feet back, and you see what this entire painting was supposed to be. Like, you've seen brushstrokes, you've seen the color tones, but the bridge can be when you step back and you feel everything that piece of art was supposed to make you feel. That's just how I feel about bridges. I came up as a songwriter in Nashville, where structure is a huge part of how you effectively tell a story, right? You go verse, chorus, second verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Maybe you repeat that first verse if you want to pull at some heartstrings, if it makes sense. Now, that's something that I absolutely subscribe to, that idea that it's, structure is important. But I think that when you write enough songs, and at least in my case, the intuitive part of your songwriting brain can kind of create a new structure that's not as classically what you've been taught. Like, Jack Antonoff is a collaborator of mine and one of my best friends. We established this thing that we love to do, and we call it the rant bridge. I could point to examples like Out of the Woods, Is It Over Now, Cruel Summer. And oftentimes we love these rant bridges where it's basically like stream of consciousness, endless pouring out of emotion, intrusive thoughts, like blended with metaphor, with discussion, with shouting. Like, you want this rant bridge to feel the most intense of what that feeling is that you're trying to establish over the course of the song. And you want it to kind of be a crescendo.
It's true.
We usually love those so much that we then bring them back. So we'll go, verse, chorus, rant bridge. Sometimes like a little post coda to that rant bridge. Last chorus. Bring the rant bridge back, maybe with the chorus chords underneath it. The mirror ball bridge. This was Jack sending me a track during COVID, and me immediately knowing that it needed to be about how I felt as a performer and an entertainer within this moment when entertainment and art has effectively shut down. I'm still going to stand on this tightrope. I'm still up on the trapeze. I'm still going to try to do tricks for you. But at the same time, being a person in the public eye, I've really begun to realize that you are a mirror. Like, you are a mirror for your fans, for the media, for people on the internet, for just people who don't even really care about your music, but they know who you are. However they feel about themselves and their life will be projected onto how they perceive you. A public person who makes art is a mirror ball. And that's part of why I've been able to keep my wits about me through all this, because I know that.